Hey everybody, it's Alish from Hopscotch. Welcome to Hour of Code with Hopscotch and Code.org. So we're going to make something really awesome today. Ever wish you could play dodgeball with food? Well, now you can. Programming allows you to build and do things on your computer that you can't do in real life, like have a food fight. In this video, we're going to make a game where two characters play dodgeball with food. And the best part is, you and your friend can play against each other. With a little help from us here at Hopscotch, you're going to be a programming pro in less than an hour. And if you ever get confused, you can rewind or pause the video to catch up. When you're done, your friends can play the game you've made on their iPad or iPhone anywhere in the world. Awesome! So let's get started. Open Hopscotch and tap on the Create button on the bottom left corner. Then Blank Project. And here we are in the editor. So in this game, we're going to create two characters who can move around and throw food at one another until one wins. So first, let's pick our two characters. So you can choose whoever you'd like, but I'm going to use Bear. Great, so move Bear over to the left. And for the second character, let's tap on the plus button again. And I'm going to pick Cupcake. Awesome. Now let's get Bear to move around using buttons that we're going to tap on. So to get those buttons, let's go back to the plus symbol and pick text, because the buttons we're going to make are going to be used with emojis. So if you have emojis already, then you should see a little smiley face or globe symbol down on the bottom to the left of the space bar. If you don't, then exit out of Hopscotch and go to Settings on your iPad, and then General, and then Keyboard, and then Keyboards, and then Add New Keyboard. And then with all those languages, you're going to find emoji, which should be between Dutch and Estonian. Little known fact, emoji is actually the long-lost language from the island of Emoja. Alright, we're back in Hopscotch. We've got our emojis, so tap on that little symbol. And here we are in emojis. So to find the buttons, go to that little symbol between the car and the space on the bottom. That's your Buttons tab. You should see a bunch of blue buttons, numbers, directions, so let's pick the up arrow. Great, and now we have our up arrow, so pull it down below Bear. Alright, now let's get the other arrows. Go back to the plus symbol, go to text, and back to emoji, and let's find left. Should be under the 6. Great, done. Drag that over to the left. Now let's grab right. So plus, text, emoji, and right. Wonderful. Down there. Okay, and lastly, let's get down. Let's get down. Tubular. All right. So let's test it out. We got our buttons, we got our bear. Let's move them around. Press play. And press the buttons. Nothing's happening. That's because the up button on its own is just a picture. We have to teach Bear that that picture, when tapped, means go up. Likewise with left and right and down. So let's go back to Edit. And let's tap Bear and add a new rule. Okay, so a rule tells your character what to do and when to do it. So when you tap New Rule, you should see a When's window and 3 options. Project is started, characters tapped, and iPad is tapped. Tap on More and you have even more options. And in this case, we want to press up and then get Bear to move up, right? So which one should we use? Is being touched. Great. So pick the up arrow. Now check. Okay, so we need, when up is being touched, we want Bear to move up, right? So which thing should we do next? Movement. And now in movement, you see 2 options in the middle of that set. One is change X and the other is change Y. Change X means move an object along the left-right axis, where the left wall is X equals 0 and the right wall is X equals 1000. So the higher X is, the further right Bear goes. Likewise, change Y means move an object along the up-down axis, where the bottom of the screen is Y equals 0 and the top is Y equals 800. So the higher Y is, the higher Bear is. So in this case, we want Bear to move up. So we would want to use change Y. And we don't want to move too high, just a little bit each time you press up. So let's add about 50. Great, now let's test it out. Press play. So I'm holding down on up, and Bear is moving up. Wonderful. So let's go back to edit. And let's try the same thing with down now. So tap on Bear again and add new rule. And more. And is being touched. Now let's pick the down arrow. Movement. And so up and down is change Y. And we only want it to be a little, right? So let's do 50. Check. Play. Great. So we move up, and then let's tap down to get him to move down. Uh-oh. Down is also making you move up. I wonder what we did wrong. Let's go back to edit and find out. So here we have change Y by 50. So we know that with up, when we change Y by 50, that moves him up, right? And if down is the opposite of up, then how do we get him to move down by 50? You got it, negative 50. So go back to that little space and type in minus 50. And this means that we're subtracting from Y. Now let's see what happens. So move him up. Now move him down. Yay, we got it. Good job. Okay, so now let's do the right button. Okay, so tap on Bear and add a new rule. More. Is being touched. And pick the right button. Check. Movement. Okay, so change which one? X or Y? X. Because X is left and right. Okay, and 50. Test that out. Up, down, right. Very cool. Okay, back to edit. All right, now we have one more. We have to make him go left, right? So add a new rule. More. Is being touched. Left. Check. Movement. Change which one? X or Y? X. Great. So we know that down is the opposite of up, and that means negative 50. So what would be the opposite of moving right 50 if we want left? Negative 50. So minus 50. Let's see what happens. Up, right, down, left. Yay, we got Bear to move. Good job. All right, so we've gotten Bear to move. Now let's get him to throw some food, the moment we've all been waiting for. So first thing we have to do is add the food. So add a new character by pressing the plus button. Let's get out of the rules. You're at the plus button, and there are no food here for us to throw other than Cupcake, and she's the opponent. So let's go to text and get an emoji. All right, so go to smiley face and find, so you see all those little symbols on the bottom? Food is under the bell symbol for whatever reason. So now we have to pick what food to use. And we all know that bears throw pizza, so let's pick pizza. Done. So now we have our pizza there, and we want to have a button that tells Bear to throw the pizza, right? So let's go back to emoji. And find the buttons, which should be next to space. Now scroll to the right. Let's find a good button for this one. Keep going. Oh, there we go. Right there is a P for pizza. It's as if it was made for us. And we can put that right there, and this will be the button that you can press when you want Bear to throw the pizza, right? So visually, what we want to happen is that when you tap P, the pizza starts in Bear's hand and then is thrown forward at Cupcake across the room, right? So what do we need to do in order to get that to happen? Well, let's make some rules for pizza. So tap on pizza and add a new rule. Now go to more, and when blank is tapped, and this will be for the button we press, so find P, Great, so we have a new rule for when P is tapped, something will happen to pizza. Check. So now we want to go to movement, and the idea is to throw pizza across the room, right? So how do we do that? Change X, and this time not just by 50, by a lot. Let's say 500, and that's like a good distance because bear has a good arm. Great, so let's see what that looks like. Press P. Okay, that works, but I'm a little confused. This doesn't really look like bear is throwing pizza, right? We need to set it in bear's hands so that it looks like it's coming from him. He's the one throwing the pizza, right? So let's go back to edit, and we need to place the pizza in a specific spot, and the way we do that is set position. Okay, so it can't just be 200 and 200 because that would just place the pizza somewhere in the bottom left corner. We want to place the pizza on bear, and there's a special way we can do that, and it's called values. So go to values next to calculator, and now you see a little pizza there under text 5's values. Tap on the gray arrow next to it until you find bear. And now this is bear's values, and two of those values are X position and Y position, and that is the location of bear on the left-right axis and the up-down axis. So your cursor should be blinking next to the X in the editor window. Let's drag that in there. Perfect. Now for Y, let's drag the Y position in there. And what you've just done is placed the pizza at bear wherever bear is. Great, so let's see what this looks like. Cool, do it again, nice. Okay, cool, so the last thing we want to do is make sure that the pizza isn't just hanging out in the middle of the screen in the beginning of the project, because where did that come from? We don't want to see the pizza until the bear is throwing it. Presumably, it's in his pocket before then. So let's go back to editor, and let's give pizza a new rule. Add new rule. When the project is started, let's make the pizza invisible. So set appearances, set invisibility to 100. And this means the pizza is 100% invisible. You cannot see it. So let's play that. Uh-oh, it's not there at all. Looks like we've set it invisible forever. So let's go back to edit, X out of here, and go back to that first rule when P is tapped. Here we need to make the pizza visible when it's thrown. So in between set position and change X, we have to put set invisibility to 0. And this means it's not invisible at all, aka it's totally visible. Now let's see what happens. Great. And one last thing, go back to edit. When the pizza is fully thrown, let's make it invisible again. And the idea here is that it's regenerating in his pocket, I guess. So 100% would be fully invisible. And let's play. And move bear around and throw. Wonderful. Good job. So now we're going to do the same thing for Cupcake. Let's program her to move up, down, left, and right, and throw food, all controlled by buttons. But first, let's make a few changes. It looks like she's facing away from bear. And since this is Food Fight Dodgeball, let's get her to face bear. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to edit and tap on Cupcake, and let's give her a new rule, which is that when the project is started, we want her to face left. So go to movement and press on a little button called flip. And what this does is it reverses her image so she's looking the other way. So let's see what that looks like. Hey-o. Terrific. Great, so now let's get Cupcake to move around. So let's pull out an up button from text and go to emoji. Now let's not pick the same up button we did for bear, and you'll understand why later, but right now we want something a little different that still explains that it's up. So if you're on this page with the numbers and the directions, then on the bottom you can see their triangle directions. Now let's pick the triangle up. Alright, so this is a button that when touched we want it to get Cupcake to move up, right? So how do we do that? You guessed it, we go to Cupcake and we give her a new rule. Do you know which rule? Is being touched. And let's pick, see, this is why we wanted different directions, because as you see, those first 4 directions are Bear's directions, and you might have been confused. So let's go down to the triangle, and that's Cupcake's up button. Great, check. Okay, can you remember how to get Cupcake to move? Go to Movement, and is it change X or change Y? It's change Y. And it's only a little bit, it's only 50, right? So let's type in 50. Play. Now, when up is being touched, great. Hold down. Cool, okay, so let's go back to edit and get out of this rule. All right, so we have the up button, we've programmed it. Can you add the other 3 buttons, left, right, and down, and then teach Cupcake to move based on touching those buttons? Pause here if you think you can. All right, now let's try it. So go to the plus button next to play, and the first one we're going to add is text. Let's do left. So remember, not the same left as before. Good. Down, drag the left, and let's go to Cupcake, add a new rule. So when the left button is touched, let's find the left button, and go to Movement. Okay, so is it X or is it Y, right? Because we're making it move left, it's change X. And is it positive or negative? Well, if it's positive for right, then it must be negative for left, right? So minus 50. Great, so let's check that out. Beautiful. Go back to edit. Great, so now let's exit out of here, and we have to add a right button now. So pop open the characters, pull out text, and let's go to emoji, and let's find the buttons. Scroll until you find the right direction triangle. Okay, done. Now let's go back to Cupcake and add a new rule for her. And we want her to move right when the Cupcake right button is being touched. So, is being touched. Scroll down to the right button for Cupcake, not for Bear. Check mark, and then go down to Movement, and we want her to move to the right. So if moving to the left involved negative 50, then what does moving to the right involve? You got it, positive 50. Plug that in, let's get out of there, and let's play, and let's see if it works. So up, left, right, beautiful. Go back to edit, and let's get that last button. So go to plus, pull out text, put it down there, and we want this to be the down arrow for Cupcake, right? So pull down the down triangle, done. Go back to Cupcake and add a new rule. Find the rule we need, which is down arrow is being touched. So is being touched, find the down arrow. And what do we want to happen? When you touch this, she moves down. So movement, and then change Y, right? Because Y is up and down. And so if up was positive 50, what's down? Negative 50. Now let's take a look. Up, left, right, down. Yay, we got a movable Cupcake. She will be very evasive in this dodgeball game. So go back to edit. Okay, so Cupcake can move around, but she doesn't have any offense, right? We need to give her food that she can throw at Bear. So first thing we'll do is pick the food that she'll throw. So pull out text, and go to emoji, and let's find the items. So that's the bell tab, and there we go, food and controllers and fruit. So what kind of food should we use? Well, I don't know. We could pick cake, but that seems a little meta. How about hamburger? Great, done. So now we have an item that she will be throwing at Bear. And now we want to decide when she throws it, not just have it being thrown randomly, right? So we need a button that you can press that will cause her to throw the hamburger. So let's find that button. So pull out another text object and put it right there, and let's pick the button we want it to look like. So I don't want it to be a number, too dry. Don't want it to be P again because it's already for pizza. I wish there were an H button, but I don't think there is. But there is this Japanese symbol that kind of looks like an H, and I believe it's actually the symbol for sa, which is a syllable in Japanese. But for our purposes, let's just think it's an H button. Great, so now we have that button, and when we press that button, we want hamburger to be thrown, right? So what does that entail? Well, it needs to be in Cupcake's hand, and then it needs to be flung to the left towards Bear. But just like pizza, in the very beginning, we don't want to see it sitting in the middle of that screen, right? So the first rule we have to give hamburger is what? You guessed it, when project is started, make it invisible. So add a new rule, and just when project is started, set invisible. So appearances, set invisibility to 100. Perfect. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Play. And great, there's nothing there at the moment. Great, so let's go back to editor, and now we need to give hamburger more rules. So when the H button is pressed, we want the hamburger to be in Cupcake's hands, be visible, and then be thrown to the left. So it's a lot. Let's see if we can do it. Add a new rule. When the hamburger button is being touched, right? So let's find the hamburger button, H. And what are the steps again? We got to put it in her hands. So how do you do that? You set position. Not just 200, 200. We got to find Cupcake's location. So the way we do that is we go to values, and then we look for Cupcake. And there it is. So X position, and then Y, back to values, and we drag out Y position. And then it'll still be invisible though, right? So we have to make it visible. So go to appearances, set invisibility to 0. Okay, now it's in her hands, but it's not going anywhere. We want it to be thrown at Bear. So movement, and is it being thrown up or left and right? Left and right, right? So change X by a lot, by 500, because she also has a good arm. And let's see what that looks like. Uh-oh, something's wrong. Go back to edit. So she's throwing it to the right, which is not what we want. Because she's facing Bear, which is left, we want her to be throwing it in that direction. So the opposite of 500 is negative 500. And that is moving something to the left. Let's see what that looks like. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so the hamburger, when hamburger button is tapped, it moves 500 to the left, but we want it to go invisible after that, so that it's sort of like disappeared and it's back in Cupcake's pocket, even though that doesn't totally make sense, but it makes sense in a video game sense. Set invisibility 100. Okay, so let's play. Let's just test it out for a second. It shoots about 500 feet. But now we want to do a little tweak where when the food hits its target, it disappears. And that's just the equivalent of it splattering. So let's go back to hamburger's rules. And the idea is that when it bumps Bear, it disappears, right? So add new rule. Blank bumps blank. Hamburger, Bear. And what happens? It disappears. So set invisibility to 100. Now let's see if that works. So I'm shooting. Hamburger goes 500 feet unless it hits Bear and then it stops. Great. Can you do the same thing for pizza? So what would you have to do? You would give pizza a rule, right? And the rule would be that when pizza bumps into Cupcake, it disappears, right? So how would you do that? See if you can do it yourself. Okay, so add a new rule. Bumps, pizza, and Cupcake. Cupcake and pizza. And appearance, set invisibility to 100. All right, let's see what that looks like. Throwing pizza, it hits Cupcake, it disappears. Cupcake throws hamburger, it hits Bear, it disappears. Beautiful. Finally, it's more fun to play to win, right? But for someone to win, we need to keep score. So let's give Bear some lives. Every time Bear gets hit with a hamburger, he's going to lose a life. And once he's down to 0, that means Cupcake wins. So we need to put something here that keeps track of how many lives he has left. So let's go to editor. So let's add a text object and call it bears lives. So pull out text, call it bears lives. Great, and let's pull it up to the top, above bear, higher. And now in order to make something that keeps track of bears lives, we need to make a value. So when project is started, go to this yellow bar called values and set a value. And go down to new value above the check mark. And let's call it bears lives. And we'll explain what this is in a second. And notice that I'm over the iPad's values. So I'm not in this text values, I'm over the iPad's values, and this is the stage's values. So let's set this to 8. Bears lives equals 8, and this is a value, and it's just a little name attached to a number that's going to change later. Now let's make a second rule, add a rule to this, so that whenever bear gets hit by a hamburger, he loses a life. So go to rules, and then go to bumps, and plug in burger and bear. So bear, and then tap burger. Great. And so when this occurs, check, go to values, and the idea is that when a burger hits bear, that lives value is going to go down by 1. So at first it was 8, and then it'll be 7 the next time this happens, and then it'll be 6. So the way we can change values is increase value, and this changes the number. So go to that gray arrow next to bears L, and that's where we are, bears lives. That's where you can find that value. And increase by -1, and that means subtract 1 from this value. Cool. So now this is all nice, but we don't really see what's going on, because if you play the project, there's just this word called bears lives, and that's not what we want. So go back to editor. Let's give it one more rule. And the idea here is that at all times we're going to see how many lives bear has. So when the project is started, set text to bears lives. So go to appearance and pull out set text. And this means that we're going to see this object be what we tell it to be. Go to values, and let's find that value. So gray arrow, there you go, bears lives. Cool. So this is good, but we want to show bears lives all the time. And right now it's only going to show it at the first instance. So in order to show it all the time, we've got to repeat forever. So go to control flow, and then repeat forever, and pull set text into that loop. Now this means it's always going to set text to whatever the value bears lives is. So let's play. So now it's 8, right? Because the first rule we said was set the value to 8. And then every time hamburger bumps into bear, it decreases a value. And now we have bears lives decreasing. Okay, cool. So let's go back to editor. Can we do the same thing for Cupcake's lives? So the idea here is that we're going to have a little number on the top of the screen that denotes how many lives Cupcake has left. And there are going to be 3 rules. The first one is that we're going to set lives to 8 in the beginning. The second rule is that anytime pizza hits Cupcake, it's going to get subtracted by 1. And the third rule is that at all times, we're going to see that number on the screen, which we're going to do by setting text to the value. So let's see if we can do it. All right, so add a new object. It's a text object, and let's call it Cupcake's Lives. Great, now let's pull that up. Very cool. Add a new rule. So the first rule is when the project is started, we want her to have 8 lives. So go to values and make a new value. And that value, now let's go to iPad's values. This is the stage's values. And add a new value, Cupcake's lives. Now you can call this anything you want, and it's important to remember that the title of the value is not important. It's just whatever is useful for you to remember. So I'm calling it Cupcake's lives, and you drag it in there and you make it 8. Alright, this was step 1. Perfect. Now, what's the next rule? Anytime pizza hits cupcake, that value is decreased by 1. So, add a new rule. Bumps. So when pizza hits cupcake, right? So pizza and cupcake. Great. Now go to values, and we're decreasing by 1. We're subtracting by 1. So increase value, Cupcake's lives, by -1. So cool. All right, check. Great. So the final move is we want to see how many lives she has at all times, right? So when project is started, always, so go to control and repeat forever, always show Cupcake's lives. So appearance, set text to values, go to stage, there you go, and Cupcake's lives. Perfect. Let's see what it looks like. Moving around. Every time the pizza hits cupcake, her lives decrease by 1. Perfect. Cool. Okay, so once someone's lives go down to 0, we want to show that the other character is 1, right? And that's a win state. So to do that, we need one more value. we need one more object, and we're going to call it winner. So pull out a word, and let's call this winner with an exclamation mark. Great. Okay, so we don't want someone to win in the beginning. So the first rule we're going to have is that in the beginning, it's invisible, right? So when project is started, set invisibility to 100. Cool. Okay, let's actually shift those 8s so that they're parallel. Great. So we want this text to display that someone wins when the other has 0 lives, right? So we have to make a rule. So if Cupcake wins, for example, when Bear's lives equals 0, then this winner text will say, Cupcake wins, and it will become visible. So you'll see it pop up in the middle of the screen. So can we do that? Let's find out. So tap on winner, and let's give winner a new rule. When something equals something, so down, let's scroll down to the equals button. So when the value Bear's lives equals 0, so go to values and go to stages values there. Bear's lives equals 0. So when this happens, we know it's invisible already, so let's make it visible. But first, let's set text to Cupcake wins. Great. And now we know it's invisible still, so let's set invisibility to 0. Let's see what that looks like. Okay. So, Cupcake, hit, 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 hit. Uh-oh. Game point. Cupcake wins. Beautiful. Okay, so now we have to have a Bear wins state, right? So we need to make a rule so that when Cupcake's lives equals 0, Bear wins, right? So let's tap on winner and make a new rule. So equals, and when Cupcake's lives equals 0, so that's a value, right? It's a value under iPad's values, and Cupcake's lives equals 0. So this is when Cupcake loses, right? So Bear wins. So set text to Bear wins, exclamation mark, because it's exciting, and then set invisibility to 0. Cool. Now let's test that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, Bear wins. Great. Okay. So let's make a little tweak so that when the food hits the character does a little wiggle that indicates that the food had an impact, right? So when pizza hits cupcake, I want cupcake to like jerk back a bit. So give cupcake a new rule that says when pizza bumps cupcake. So bumps, pizza, cupcake, and movement, and turn, which means rotate. And let's turn 45 degrees, and then a negative 45 degrees. Great. Okay. Let's see if that worked. So throw some pizza at cupcake. Nice. Okay, and let's do the same thing for bear. So do you think you can do it for bear? So the idea is that when you throw hamburger at bear, when hamburger bumps into bear, bear turns 45 degrees and then negative 45 degrees. See if we can do it. So add a rule to bear. When hamburger bumps bear, right? So bumps. And then hamburger, bear, and hamburger. And then, so when this happens, bear wiggles, right? So go to movement and turn 45 and then negative 45. Let's see what that does. Great. So some of you very observant people might have noticed that it was the same degrees even though they were facing different directions. That's actually because when you flipped cupcake, the degrees were reversed. So that's just a good thing to know. But anyway, you just built a food fight dodgeball game in Hopscotch. Epic. Now you can play this game with a friend on your iPad or iPhone and even teach them to make their own games. And you can make this game even more fun by customizing it like we did. You can add a background, you can add different characters, change the objects they throw. You can even build off this game to create something even crazier, like this. So the next time you have an idea, now you know that you can build it. So keep hopscotching. Bye!